Hey guys. So, I have things I want to accomplish. I have things I would like to be putting my attention on. And for the last several months, I just haven't been able to. I haven't been able to focus on anything outside of the world turmoil. This is very similar to the coronavirus thing for me. I wanted to ignore it so much, but I just couldn't because I've always had this weird fascination with like dystopian futures and stuff. And so like a pandemic I just couldn't take my attention off of it. And so it grew either for me or in reality into a huge thing that I then experienced, and that everybody in this reality that I'm in experienced right along with me. And the same thing has happened in the last like 4 months with the current world events. They just got too interesting. Shit is just too fucked up to ignore it anymore. Somebody asked me earlier this year, I made a video, about whether I worry about recessions and things like that. And my answer at the time was, no, I don't think about it because I didn't. But pretty quickly, I don't know, things just started to ratchet up and I got a little interested, and then that was it. I've always been interested in politics, especially and mostly in election years. The whole thing's, I don't know. It's like, get some popcorn and watch the shit show. It's always been like that. I've always watched, election night and all that stuff. Like, that was one of my favorite, every 4 years. Probably my favorite night of every 4 years was watching the coverage of that. So this has all gotten pretty insane. Yesterday in the morning, I was thinking, I'm way too into this. I spend all day listening to podcasts, watching stuff. And yesterday I thought, I really need to turn my attention away from this. It's like I'm obsessed with a video game and I really need to like get back to, other things. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to turn my attention away from this a little bit. And in order for me to stay focused on other things that I want to do in my life and, focus on other things, I'm going to have to not get distracted by or upset by things that happen. Because, of course, while I can't escape that all of this stuff gets bigger and bigger as I put my attention on it, and I can't escape the fact that it just feels like I switched to this channel a few months ago, and given the nature of this channel and all the discussion in this area, I'm honestly way more on the side of this being a simulation or something like that than anything else. So it's not real. And if you know something isn't real, then how far can you really let yourself get into it before sort of, pulling yourself back in terms of like emotions and getting upset and, allowing it to really affect you negatively. If it's a game, at some point a healthy adult should be able to say, ooh, I got a little too invested in this notion. It's not real. I'm too invested in this movie, and I need to step back and remember that this isn't even real, and there's no reason to be taking the emotions to this extreme. And of course, I'm human. I had many moments like that over the last however many months. And so yesterday I was thinking I'm going to have to keep that in mind, and I'm going to have to limit my exposure. And I was going over in my mind, because this is just what I do, in order to have success in shifting my focus away and doing something else. I was thinking, well, let me run through the things that could potentially happen. Okay, a nuclear war happens. Really don't need to worry about that. Really don't need to worry about that, because if that happens, this game is over and there's nothing to really worry about. Cross that bridge when we come to it. It's looking like when, not if, but, hopefully not. But there's just no reason to even worry about that, because that'll just be game over. So don't have to really worry about that. Don't really even have to worry about the threat of that, because there's absolutely nothing I can do about it directly as a human within the game. So don't have to worry about that. This country, the United States, sinking into some, communist hellhole, some horrible situation where Everybody is just absolutely taxed to death and monitored constantly, something like that. I don't see that happening in the next 6 months. So I'm not even going to think about that. And then I thought, one of the most upsetting things I could imagine happening that I think is likely to happen. And again, I'm saying this from within the game. Whether or not me thinking it's likely to happen causes it to happen, nobody has the answers for that. We're all just speculating about that in the manifestation community. Anybody who acts like they know is full of shit selling something. So I'm thinking, the thing that would be the most upsetting, I think, the most disheartening, the thing that would throw things into the most chaos that I can imagine would be Donald Trump getting assassinated. And so I was thinking, could that happen without throwing me off? If Donald Trump got assassinated, the chaos that would ensue would be so insane. This isn't a sitting president getting assassinated. It's a sort of a figurehead for a movement. Somebody who is probably going to be elected. That person getting assassinated would... I don't even know what would happen, but it would be big, intense, and probably pretty bad. And I just thought, okay, that's the big one. That's the big one that I need to spend a second here coming up with sort of a reaction plan to deal with. How would I handle that if that happened? This was yesterday morning. And so I was just thinking, how would I handle the stress? I was coming up with stressful situations, what, just sort of, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I think that's true. I think even if the situations you imagine don't happen, which they usually don't, which is just more evidence that there's a lot more to this manifestation thing than people say. Having a good idea how you're going to stay on track with what you're trying to do mentally is essential. I mean, it's essential. And I think that's why there's so little success in this manifestation community, because people confuse just going through situations in your mind with the actual process of manifesting something, and they're completely different from each other, at least in the ways that matter. So I was thinking about that yesterday, and then I had to take my kittens to the vet to get vaccinated, and one of them had a bad reaction to the vaccine and started throwing up, and so I had to take her back to the vet, and then she had to get an anti-nausea shot, which apparently is painful, and she absolutely freaked out. It was jarring how much she freaked out when she got this shot, because they had gotten shots a few hours earlier that didn't hurt and there's no problem. I'm getting stressed out just recounting this. And then she howled all the way back to my office in the car, and that experience alone was enough to completely throw me off. After having just gone through this mental exercise to try to sort of forearm myself. So at about 4 o'clock yesterday, I came home. I was telling Matt about my day, and I was telling him, about how I was thinking about all this stuff, and I was just like, yeah, I'm trying to come up with a plan for how to deal with this. Donald Trump's probably going to get assassinated before the election. That's almost definitely, there's no way that somebody isn't going to do, there's no way that if there's no viable candidate on the other side that somebody isn't going to take him out. That's just, it's going to happen. And here we are. So when there's something like this, when there's a situation, a world situation, this is assuming that I'm not the only one here and that everything is responding instantly to me. When there's a situation that has so many moving parts and is so big, the country you're in is in political turmoil, and there are so many unknowns, so many things that could happen, so many things that you don't know about the situation, that you're not educated about, enough to be able to predict the future or, navigate what's going on, which I think is a feature of this whole simulation, in which you do have great power, but it doesn't appear that you actually direct the major events that are going on. When you have that type of a situation, there is a sort of an override, in my experience. And this is something that I did like maybe 2 weeks ago. As I was listening to all this stuff, reading all this stuff, and thinking about everything, I was, distressed, because I was thinking, what do I want here? What do I want to have happen here? I'm in this, like I'm participating in this willingly. I could just shut all this off. I've shut off everything for like the last 8 years. And I just tuned back in like 4 months ago. I could just turn it off again. But I'm willingly doing this. It's not because I feel an existential threat, because I don't really care about that. In terms of the game here, I don't really worry about that part so much as the actual experience of being here. But, I just thought, okay, I'm tuning into this. I'm feeding my energy into this. Why? There's a reason. It's because I want something. The entertainment is good, but there's other ways to be entertained. There's a reason why I'm feeding my energy into this enormous, energetic, swirling mass. What is it? What do I want from this? Why am I creating this reality where this is what's going on? Why am I, it doesn't have to be my, I may be living in a consensus reality, but this doesn't have to be like my whole day every day. But I want it to be, clearly. I'm participating in it willingly. It's not because I feel like I have to. It's not because I feel like I have to be informed. I think a lot of people use that as an excuse that's a cover-up for something else, like a fear or a desire or something more base. And they use the excuse of, I feel I need to be informed. What do I want from this? Why am I doing this? I thought about it. I think I said this in another video. I don't think of other catastrophic situations. I don't think about and toy with the idea and put a bunch of energy into things happening that I have no desire to happen. So there's some desire for this to be happening, is the conclusion. And I think the bottom line for me is that I want justice. I want to experience justice. Whatever this all is in my mind must be leading to a more just situation than what has been the experience of my lifetime. So, I've only been in existence since 1979. So, that's what I came down to. And so that's what it came down to for me. And so I was thinking about it, there's this swirling mass of ideas and events and fears about what's going to happen. These are maybe not fears, but like apprehensions, and which situation do I prepare for? It's like the most massive, insane video game. And I realized it's almost like it's too much to even pick something and say, I want this to happen, or I want to experience this. And I just realized, it's justice. And I should experience the feeling of justice and manifest that, because that's what I want. I want to experience or stop experiencing the opposite of justice. I want to stop living somewhere that is just a total mess of gaslighting and freedom is slavery, love is hate, this just group think. That's what I want. I want sanity and honor and solid core values to return to the people that surround me. That's what I really want. I'm not a person who is like some strange over-the-top patriot or anything like that. And I think there's been a lot of unjust stuff going on in the world, and what I want is justice. So I just, for a moment, just really for a moment, when I thought about that, I just stopped and felt that feeling. And for me, what that meant was, and I guess this is sort of the key of this video, the only usable part of this video for other people, is what I did was I stopped and, I don't know if I came up with a specific scenario that I've experienced in the past. Reflecting on past feelings and experiences is basically how I experience something with sort of a copy-paste onto the future. I want this feeling to be recreated. I thought of, some situation where I had felt like something really unjust was happening outside of me, and then I got to watch it be rectified. And that feeling of, wow, that situation really got what was coming to it. That person really got brought to justice for what they did, or something like that. Just that sort of feeling of satisfaction, peace, safety, maybe a little bit of, gloatiness, just a little bit of, not, I guess satisfaction is what that is. Just sort of, that overall feeling of watching things return to balance, things that have been horribly out of balance in a way that is upsetting, return to balance in a way that is very satisfying. I just felt that feeling with the intention of, this is how I want to feel about the absolutely insane situations that are unfolding all over the place right now, all over the world. I don't want to be directly involved. I don't want to have to arm myself and go to war or something. And that's about as far. I want to be safe. I don't want to experience personal devastation. I want to just feel this. I want to watch this justice just play out, and for things to elevate to a much better place where people are not being constantly manipulated. Good people not being constantly manipulated. Bad people or whatever, for lack of a, I don't want to go into good and bad, but bad people being stopped from doing the bad things they're doing, at least kicked out of their positions to go, attempt to do it somewhere else. Just, I guess not a return to anything, because I don't know that it's ever been this way. Human nature is, it's got some really dark downsides that, we don't evolve past, apparently. But, I just focused on that and sort of thought that through a little bit. I want this hatred that seems to be in everybody, including me. I want that to be gone. I want that to dissipate. It's being created. It's not real. It's like there's a grand delusion being pushed on everybody, and some people are being, hatred is being created in some people by the delusion, and in others by judging those people and by judging the people creating the delusion, and everything is just like devolving. That's what seems to be happening. And so the feeling of justice, the feeling of that being turned over, and the opposite of that taking over and spreading like a virus. That's what I want. And so that's the feeling that I focused on. And I'll just tell you what's happened since then. The absolute debacle of an American presidential debate went down. The lies of the media being just instantly revealed, and the ridiculous response of those people, which of course has now changed back because there is no truth anymore. It's just not important anymore. And then somebody trying to shoot Donald Trump in the head last night. That's what's happened in the last like 10 days. The feeling when I generated that feeling of justice, I think it was the day before the debate, or maybe even the day of the debate, because I was so sickened at the prospect of watching that, which of course I was going to do. I was so sickened at that I just thought I have to, like, you know, that feeling, like this nauseous feeling. I was just like, this is too far. This is too far with the sim. That's what I'm talking about. Like with coming back from going too far into it. This is too far into this. Like, I need to stop now and focus on what is it that I want from this. Like I'm these feelings of like anxiety and nausea are feelings of being completely powerless. When I do have power, I have the power to put some energy on what it is that I want this to culminate in. So that's what happened basically directly after that. And, you know, I think a lot of us are feeling like we want that, like, feeling of justice. And I think honestly, the vast majority of people want the same thing. Even people that are unwittingly on both sides or whatever, they're unwittingly participating in creating the problem. I think even those people are just kind of misguidedly looking for the same thing. So I wanted to post this because shit's insane. Like, the world's gone crazy. And if any of you are real out there, and we're all creating this as a consensus, and I'm not the one creating this personally because nobody else exists, then I think this is important to get out there. You know? And I think it's important not to judge yourself for your reactions to things, but it is important to start focusing on a feeling and to not attach that to what you think the outcome should be. I made almost this exact video 4 years ago in November. Focus on the feeling that you want to feel, and not on, you know, this person needs to be out of office, or this person needs to be killed, or this person needs to be elected, or this group of people like needs to all die off or something, you know. Like, that's where you really need to be careful, because it's easy to become irrational and start labeling a whole group of people and start looking at them as subhuman or an enemy or something like that. And that, again, that's just like a human failing and nothing to judge yourself over. But stop doing it. Stop it and start focusing on, especially when you start feeling distressed, focus on what you want to feel, and at least entertain the idea that what you think will cause that to come about is not at all the case. It's not easy to do for anybody, because everybody, I think at this point, pretty much almost everybody over the age of 40, let's just say over the age of 30, and maybe that's not even fair. Maybe the next generation that's turning into adults right now has a very strong opinion. I don't know. I don't really know any of them except for my niece. But you know, everybody, I think, is kind of has an idea about who's bad and who's good at this point. It's not easy to just put that aside and say, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe my perceptions of this situation are completely wrong. I can't tell you how often I entertain that idea. It's really, you know, I think it's a necessary thing to do. I swear I stop 10 times a day and just say, am I on the wrong side of this? Like, am I buying into things? Is my perception completely off here? Am I only cherry picking and seeing the things that support what I want for my own personal life? You know, it's not easy to keep yourself from becoming a zealot, but you should do that for sure. and let the situation unfold. And you're still going to have to act, you're still going to have to go and vote, or you're still going to have to probably take some action, and it's going to go along with whatever your ideology is, probably. But in my experience, when you focus on an emotion or a feeling or whatever, that is so effective. And in a situation where there are things that you can easily become afraid of, anxious about, stressed out about, in a situation where there are so many moving parts between what you're experiencing right now and what you would like to experience, too many for you to even pick one and start working on it or whatever, manifesting it to be different. It's just that feeling, focusing on that feeling with the intention of this whole outer situation is going to move towards this feeling. In my experience, that happens pretty quickly. These general things happen so quickly. You will get what you're ready for almost immediately. Anyway, I don't know. This is a situation that is pretty insane in the United States, and thus for everybody else too. So, I don't know if this helped anybody. If you are so rabidly, dogmatically attached to, a political party that's okay with assassinating their opponent, I would invite you to unsubscribe from my channel and block this channel so that I don't even come into your existence, because I don't want to be anywhere in the vicinity of anyone that thinks that way. And if you are, I would strongly suggest taking a step back and realizing that that has produced nothing good for anyone ever. And it's good to wake up and stop being a part of the problem. I sat last night and thought if there was anybody who I would be happy seeing get assassinated. I really tried to think about it. Are there any political figures in America right now? Are there any political figures that I hate so much, or any news people or anything? And I can honestly say, I was imagining all these people just getting mowed down at some event. Is there anyone where I would say, thank God, we don't have anybody here rounding people up and executing them. We don't have anybody here starving half the nation. In that case, maybe I would be okay with it, or maybe I would be happy about it. I don't know that there's not situations where somebody, needs to go. I don't know. But in this situation, there is nobody. There's nobody. And there's some pretty bad people out there, benignly creating all kinds of with their benign personality, creating all kinds of problems. And there's nobody who I would want to see killed. Nobody. Especially not to win political power. That's really fucked up. So, I said in my last video, that's as political as I'm gonna get about something, and that was a fucking lie. So anyway, I hope you have a good day, and we are living in interesting times.